Bam. And stream is good to go. All right. Back in the studio, Team Early as Fuck podcast. We've got Hannah Fredrickson here. Say hi, Hannah.
Hello, everyone.
Perfect. Hannah is a badass, new to the Olympic lifting world. How long have you been doing it for?
Probably like around August will be about my year mark.
Nice. Badass. She is also an athletic trainer. Where are you at right now?
So I'm certified at Fresno High School in Fresno, California.
Oh, California, that's right. I was gonna say you're in the warm, nice part of the world.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty nice right now. No snow.
How was winter?
Don't miss that. So California's winter is kind of what I would equate to like Wisconsin spring.
Okay.
Before the snow melt, like when the snow is kind of like starting to melt and stuff, how it's like bipolar.
Gotcha. What we're in right now.
But it's what you guys are in right now. It just doesn't snow here, that's all.
Yeah. We were out there 2 years ago, 2017. We were out there in November, and it was amazing. It's a little disconcerting when people are walking around with like Patagonia parkas, which are rated for, like 0 degrees, if not below 0, and they're walking around with these parkas on, and it's like 50, 60 degrees outside.
Yeah, it was pretty funny my first year back during football season, and I'm standing on the sideline with just like khakis and a polo, a little like, lightweight sweatshirt, and everyone's got gloves and beanies, and they're all talking about how they need hand warmers, and I was like, y'all are a bunch of wimps. So I have acclimatized, so now I'm a wimp again.
Yeah, there you go. So Hannah, where are you originally from?
I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from San Jose, California.
Okay.
Did my undergrad at University of the Pacific in Stockton, and then went out to Wisconsin for a few years for grad school at UWSP, and then moved back down here.
Sweet. So I want to cover a couple different things today with you. It's Athletic Training Month. We are both well aware. The big thing being this year, ATs are healthcare. So I've got that up on the screen here. And I know there's still a ton of confusion because I'm sure you still get it to this day, exactly what athletic trainers do. I love that. Yep. You're just like, it's all the stories. So for yourself, what got you into athletic training? What was I'm working on a presentation actually right now with Beth. We're presenting at the Wisconsin Athletic Trainers Association. Do you still have do you still have a problem me calling it WADA, or do you still want me to say it all?
It's fine.
Okay.
It's cool.
Do you still have that that trigger?
No, not really.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
For me, yeah, I know what you're talking about. For me, athletic training. I grew up playing sports. I did soccer, like travel in high school. My brother did like baseball, hockey, all that stuff. And so in 7th grade, we had like a project where we had to like find a career and research it and like do a mock interview in front of our class and everything. And I had hurt my ankle once before, and I had done some physical therapy, so I was like, I'm gonna do PT, yay. And then when we went to the library, right next to the physical therapy book was an athletic training book, and it coincidentally had a soccer player on the front, and I was like, what the heck is this? Like, it has soccer. And so I looked at it and I was like, this is what I want to do, because you kind of get to see all aspects of injuries and healthcare and sports and everything. And I like the ability to be in multiple settings and not just inside all day. I think I would go crazy. So
Agreed.
That is how I initially got introduced to athletic training, was in 7th grade from a book, and it sealed my fate.
Badass. So did you work with an athletic trainer with your ankle injury, or was it the physical therapist only?
I did physical therapy, and then when I got into high school, my junior year, we got an athletic trainer, and she started the athletic training class. So I signed up for that. So I did that my senior year. And yeah, I started like learning more about the day in and day out kind of things, and helping to cover football games, doing blood and stuff. And just, yeah, decided this is something that I'm really interested in and pursued that.
Nice. Very cool. So with kind of where do I want to? I think next talking about this idea that actually let's keep going on with your story, and then we'll dive into athletic trainers as healthcare practitioners.
All right.
So you did your undergrad where again?
University of the Pacific, up in Stockton. It was a 4-year small school, and it was really cool though because hockey. I grew up watching hockey. I know it's weird being from California. No one really like understands hockey, and so my goal in life was to be an NHL athletic trainer, and we actually had a contract through UOP at an ECHL hockey team in Stockton, and they had students go over there for part of their rotation. So I didn't even know that though when I interviewed, and then when I got into the program and I was like, this is what I want to do, they were like, whoa, we have a deal for you. So I got to go work with the Stockton Thunder. I think now they're the Stockton Heat since they've kind of shuffled the organization and everything.
Okay.
But I worked with them for a rotation, and then I continued to go back and help like over Christmas break and stuff because I live relatively close by. So yeah, that was like the coolest part of my college years.
Very cool. And then you got shuttled out to the tundra where you froze your ass off for
Yep.
no money
I'm still
and
on that hockey kick. Yeah, I'm still on that hockey kick. So I was like, I got to go where the hockey's at. So I got my GA position where I got to work with women's hockey. I also worked with football and softball, but that was like, I saw that it was a hockey position and I applied, and it was probably only one of the few GA positions I applied to because I was like, this is just what I want to do. And I actually love Wisconsin. I didn't intend on moving back to California, but I'm happy that I did.
Nice. What was so through all this, what was your own personal, so you're growing, you're doing the athletic training thing, you're helping all these people. You're the big thing with athletic trainers, I'm not sure what the GA application process is, but I know like the big one for the undergrad at Point, they're looking for people who, you go in and during your interview that your big passion is helping people. I think that's universal with all athletic trainers. I'm not sure if that's what the graduate interview is like, but through all this, it becomes super easy, and I'm sure you've seen it through athletic training. But it's super easy for us to become, have the martyr complex where we're too busy to exercise, we're too busy to pursue our own athletic or competitive endeavors, we're too busy to eat healthy. Right. The hours with athletic training are crazy, so it's super easy to say, oh, I don't have time to sleep. What was that like for you? Your growth through that, your personal growth from student to graduate student to working professional.
It was pretty interesting. I just like doing it. I like being there as a student. I would try and just like, even when I wasn't scheduled to do hours, I would just be in the athletic training room. And so I didn't really see it necessarily all the time as like work. Obviously there were times, where I'm like, oh my God, I have like 6 tests this week or whatever. And, you're struggling. But it also in a way that was kind of my way of like, I like what I'm doing. So it wasn't too bad. I mean, there were times I worked like well over 40 hours a week. Don't tell Katie that, but, we did have, our program director and clinical coordinator coming in and saying, you guys can't be doing this many hours. You need to like go home. And, and looking back, I understand why, because you are still a student and you're not getting paid, and you know that's not what you should be doing. But yeah, I didn't really see it as work. Obviously, there were times where I would have rather, been sleeping for like early morning practices or late nights. But I still liked what I did, and I liked being able to help people. And then in grad school, it was still kind of the same mentality. But it wasn't until Chris Ficken started as the head athletic trainer where she seriously started advocating, especially for us GAs, because technically a graduate assistant is technically supposed to be like part-time,
Yep.
so to speak. Like, you're still getting your graduate degree. You're going to your classes. You're doing assignments. Some people do thesis, work. I did like a comprehensive exam. You can do like a project, things like that. For one of my classes, I basically developed like a class that we were almost going to implement through the university, but like funding wise, it just wouldn't. It was like too much funding needed. But so it technically is supposed to be like a part-time job, and so for her to come in from more of like a clinical, like doctor's office kind of setting, for her to come in and just say, you need to go like take a break, you need to go eat, you need to go, like, I needed to change the oil in my car once, and I was like trying to figure out when I was going to do it because my hours didn't work with the auto shops basically. And so it was like, go, like, so you take an hour, you're fine, you have kids coming in, whatever. And so that kind of, and like after doing that for a little bit, realizing like, oh, like, wow, I really needed to just go take a nap for like 20 minutes, or, oh, I really needed to eat. I hadn't even realized I hadn't eaten all day. That kind of like changed my mentality. And then once graduating and going into the working world, especially in California, where athletic trainers, there's still not licensure for athletic trainers, and it's still very much like old school, where like you should be bleeding for your team basically.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where I first started, and I kind of thankfully had a PT clinic kind of back me up with certain things as far as like, no, you shouldn't be working more than this many hours a week, or if you do work this many hours a week, you should be getting paid overtime, or things like that. That was definitely very helpful. But I guess I eventually learned how to kind of like stick up for myself a little bit more and just say like, this is not part of my job description. So I will try and help, but it's not part of my job description. So I'm not going to like kill myself over it. Yeah. Or the biggest thing that I'm struggling with right now is scheduling wise. We're like the last to find out when a game gets canceled or a game gets moved, or you find out like 20 minutes that, oh, the game got moved up an hour or whatever. And thankfully, most of the coaches at my high school right now, like for example, we had a baseball game that was scheduled for 3:30, but it was supposed to rain at like 4. So they called me probably like 11:45. We're like, we're moving the game to 1:30. And I just kind of paused for a second. I was like, okay. And meanwhile, I live like 30 minutes-ish away from work. I was like in the middle of vacuuming and meal prepping. So I was like in workout clothes still. Hadn't eaten yet. So I was okay. And I was really shocked when he said, it's okay if you can't make it here on time. I was actually really, really shocked, but I was also very thankful. And I said, you know what? I have a couple things that I need to do. I obviously need to change and eat, but I will be there as soon as I can. And I most likely will be able to make it before game time. But it was just hearing that where I was like, I know a lot of coaches put a lot of pressure on us, but at the same time, like, we're human. And like when stuff like that happens, that's not in our control. So it's definitely getting better. And I think that more and more people are advocating for athletic trainers to like remember themselves sometimes. Mm-hmm. And just making it a priority. I know I have a passion for weightlifting, but before that, it was hard to motivate myself. Like, I'm already tired, I just don't want to do it. But once I found this, like, I enjoy doing it, and that's kind of my me time.
Yeah.
Take some aggression out. So
hell yeah, I love it. When I saw your first Olympic lifting post, I got all fired up because it wasn't. And there's nothing. I have nothing against the endurance event, but so many, or the endurance sports, but it just seems like so many. I think female athletes feel that like that's the only route they have is the endurance route. So they gravitate towards that, which is, there's nothing against that. But anytime I see a woman gravitating towards the strength sports, I'm like, fuck yes, because just like getting the word out about athletic trainers being human and, needing to take time for themselves and not working 80 hours a week, women should and can be strong. Like if you choose to lift weights, that's fucking awesome. And people who have a problem with that, it's a good punch in the face to them with reality that women can and should be, strong and lift weights and all that fun shit. So you talked about meal prep, and we're definitely come back to Olympic weightlifting and the effect that's had on you. But meal prep. So what is in from undergrad, graduate to now? What is kind of been your and with athletic training a big thing? With athletic training, a big thing is obviously prevention of illness and injury, and a big part of that comes from what you're eating, how you're recovering. So what does that look like for you, that evolution?
Well, before I turned like 26, I could pretty much eat whatever I wanted and like never even have to worry about gaining weight.
So many people hate you
I don't
right
know
now.
if it was I don't know if it was metabolism or like my activity level. I'm not really sure, but because I was in college, I trained for half marathons. So I ran a lot, and I being in high school doing a lot of sports, it wasn't like I had a long period of time between high school and college where I just didn't work out. I had started working at a running store, and they did half marathon training programs. So I started doing those. And so, just very active. So for me, it was, I had a really bad habit of like not eating during the day just because I was so busy. And then, you'd go on campus, they had a grill bar upstairs, and then downstairs you had kind of like your food court where you would just go and like get food, whatever, you had your meal card. And they also had a store on campus where you could get like snacks or, more basic like sandwiches and stuff like that. So it would just be kind of a convenience thing. Like, I'm done with my hours, I'll go to the DUC and I'll just get food. And I never really contemplated like really what I was putting into my body, just because obviously I didn't see the physical changes or anything. And then in grad school, it was kind of the same way, but I would be better about making myself a sandwich or bringing snacks, just because I was there for a longer majority of my day. Essentially it was just like, working hours plus some. So, working regular hours plus some. So like making sandwiches, for myself, or having snacks, things like that. Thankfully, where my office was pretty close to food. So if I needed to, it was like, hey, I'm just going to run to the store real quick, or I'm going to run to, I don't know, Taco Bell. I don't know why I like Taco Bell so much, but I really like Taco Bell. I would just run to Taco Bell, or, things like that. And then Wednesdays we had morning practice, so I would have to be at the rink at 5:30 in the morning, or by 5:30 in the morning. And so I think that was still when I was in my, like, I can't eat right when I wake up part of my life. So I would just not eat and then eat when I got home or something like that. So it was more still kind of just convenience, but I would still kind of bring myself food every once in a while. And then when I got back to California, I was still convenience. I would make sure I had like food, like a sandwich. Shakes were really good, like protein shakes or meal replacement shakes were really, really helpful for me, just because I was getting my calories in, I was getting the protein I needed. But at this point, I had kind of stopped working out just because I was just tired. I don't know what the excuse was. But yeah, so that was when I started eating like I used to, but then stopped working out. So I started gaining weight, which everyone's, I was not like fat by any means, but I could just feel the difference on my body and see the difference on my body. So just trying to find things. I had done, when I first moved back, I was training for half marathons, but my body stopped liking that. My hips started hurting, my knees started hurting.
Were you doing any strength training or cross training on the side, or just running?
We would go to the gym. I had access to like actually a really nice gym at my high school, so I would go in and do some cross training, but not a whole lot. Just more so because like weightlifting was not something that I was super familiar with. You know, we learn kind of in our education, we learn about like rehab per se and like preventative exercises to a certain extent, but you know, like writing yourself a weightlifting program or something like that, it's kind of like, what? So
how badass do you think that would have made it, like adding that in, like having someone, you know, like yourself come in and just give a like one class during rehab to talk about that? Because I think it would have been
pretty cool. I think prescription is a lot different than just like knowing kind of general stuff.
Oh, exactly.
Like writing yourself an actual weightlifting program, like I just am like, okay, coach, what am I doing today? But like, which we did go into the weightlifting room when I was in college and speak with our strength and conditioning coaches, but it was still something that was just kind of like, oh yeah, you do some bicep curls and some like lunges or whatever, and that's, you know, like that was my kind of my understanding of like weightlifting. But I was also just good at running, so I just ran, and it made me feel good, so I ran. But like when I did, my body really only, which I came to find out after this last time I did a half marathon, my body likes to really only do like 4 or 5 half marathons in like a span. I don't even know how long, but after like the 5th half marathon, my body just doesn't like it anymore. It's like you just need to take a break. So I'll take a break, and then I could like pick back up training after a few years, and I'll be fine. And that's what happened after college. And then again, when I started training again, like after about 4 half marathons, my body just didn't recover the same way. So I just backed off that. But like meal prepping, when I moved, one of my roommates and we got a lot better about it. Just like doing like casserole type things, or like cooking, you know, meat, and then, you know, you proportion it and whatever. Like we got better at doing that, and so that we had food when we got home, it was just already ready, instead of being like going for the convenience or whatever. So that was kind of like when meal prepping started happening. And then when I really started training, I did the RP strength template.
Oh, nice.
For a while.
They're awesome.
And I like that. Yeah, I like that because I was doing the weight or the muscle mass gain. Because when my coach asked me how many calories a day I ate,
I can only imagine.
I started counting them, and I was eating like half the amount of calories.
Oh, that's my favorite. And probably a fifth of the protein you needed.
Yeah, I don't even know what percentage it was. Like just calories, like intake in general. I was like not eating because I just wasn't hungry. And then you get busy at work, so you like don't eat and stuff. And so your appetite is suppressed. You've gone your entire life under eating, and now when you do eat, I'm sure you eat a small amount and you feel full because, you know, your body's adapted to a very low caloric state. So yeah, I'm sure that was very, very illuminating. He was like, you just need to eat more. And so I tried to eat more, but like eating 3 meals a day and trying to double my intake was really hard for me. Like I would basically almost be like throwing up halfway through my meal because it was just too much food at once. And everybody is so different. Everybody's body is so different. Like my coach can eat so much, but he eats like 1 meal a day, but he eats all of it at like once. And I'm just in there like, if I did that, I swear to God, I would just throw up. And so the strength template worked for me because it breaks it up into so many meals. And so I was getting the right amount of calories, and I could do it because it was in like, you know, whatever. And now that I'm trying to do a cut, I have to drop 2 weight classes, so about 10 pounds. over an extended period of time. I wouldn't have done it if it had been such a short period of time, but I have till August. So I'm just using my Fitness Pal now and just counting macros. And yeah, I still eat a lot. Like, people are like, how are you losing weight when you're eating that much? I'm like, because I'm eating the right stuff. But yeah, now it's very much like I'll cook my meat and then like my protein source.
What's your go-to?
My go-to is chicken. It's pretty easy to like cook it, and I found this teriyaki chicken recipe that my fiance likes as well, so I can just make like 6 pounds of it, and we can just, portion it off with rice and broccoli, and it's pretty easy to do. But I've started doing the where it's already cooked now and then it's frozen, so I just buy it frozen, so I just have to heat it up, just because I was spending like 3 days meal, like a whole entire day in my mornings after working out, just cooking, and I was like, I can't do this every day. I have a ton of other stuff I need to do, so I started doing that. But I also like ground turkey. I'm not really a big red meat fan per se, but like I used to, if I ever ate pasta and had marinara sauce, I could never put meat in it. Like, it just grossed me out. But thankfully, I'm marrying a man who can figure out how to make it that I like it. So now I have that as an option as well.
I was gonna say, but, red meat's got more vitamins and minerals, protein per pound than your chicken.
Yeah. So, but I'm just not the biggest like beef fan.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just the way it is. But yeah. So those would be, and then I like sweet potatoes and like sweet potatoes. I do white rice a lot. Quinoa. I haven't been doing quinoa as much because Gabe doesn't like it. So white rice, and he doesn't like sweet potatoes either, but I just get the microwavable ones so I can eat them. And so yeah, just finding, and then I plug them in now to my Fitness Pal in the morning. I kind of like see what I can eat, and then just prep it for the day. But I'll do like all my veggies for the whole week at once, and so it's definitely like been a lot easier. And my athletes at the high school all make fun of me. They'll be like, oh, what's she eating today? Like, oh, that seems like a lot of carbs. And I'm like, oh, well, it was a really hard workout day today, so I can have extra carbs. Or they're just really funny, because then they'll be like, can I have some? I'm hungry. I was like, you should have made yourself a sandwich before you came to school today. Like, it's just,
oh God, yeah, it's for sure.
Just trying to educate them too about eating in general, because I was that way in high school. I wouldn't eat all day, and then I'd feel sick at practice, and just trying to encourage them, like, it doesn't matter if because they get free lunch at the Fresno at the Fresno Unified Schools. They provide free lunch, and then they have they call it super snack at the end of the day. And granted, it might not taste the best. I mean, it is free, so they have to kind of pick things that are not as expensive. But it's like, well, if you don't like it, then you should have brought food, because you're expending calories even when you're sleeping, when you're just sitting in class, and you expend a ton more out on the field or on the court or whatever. So you need those calories, otherwise you're going to be getting dizzy, blah blah blah, whatever. So trying to educate them as well. But yeah, it's just funny, they all make fun of my food all the time, but they're all jealous, so.
Oh, exactly. All too familiar with that. That was basically all of college, because I'm fairly certain I was the only person that meal prepped in my class, but or even down in the training room downstairs. So and you touched on it a little bit, the education piece of it with your patients, with your athletes. So how has that changed, kind of through your athletic training, sports medicine journey from before till now, I guess, talking about food? Maybe with female athletes specifically. Yeah.
How I've approached it hasn't really changed too much. I know now I'm leading by example a little bit more. Athletic trainers have a very good, actually it's a bad habit, but we're really good at it, of not taking our own advice. even with like injuries and stuff. I know I'm totally guilty of that, but preaching to them, you need to be eating, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this, and like you're not eating all day long. So it's just one of those things where now I feel like I'm leading by example a little bit more, and like trying, I guess the only thing that I would say really has changed is trying to show them like food is fuel. Like you eat to live, not live to eat. So there are some times where I look at my food, I'm like, this doesn't necessarily look super appetizing, or I'm like not really in the mood for this, but I'm eating it anyway, kind of thing. And just trying to like show them like you need to eat whether or not the food is like 5-star review or whatever. But just as far as like educating them, talking about like I said, you're burning calories even when you're sleeping. Your body is expending calories trying to live, and you have to feed it. And hot Cheetos and what do they like to drink? Well, Gatorade's not horrible if you're an athlete, but like and you haven't eaten anything all day. But like hot Cheetos and Dutch Brothers is like a really big coffee thing. There's one right down the street from our campus, which is just like Starbucks but times a million sugar.
Solid.
So yeah, like hot Cheetos is not a food group. I think is what I've told a couple of them. So basically that. I also with female athletes, I'll try and let them know that I understand that there's a lot of pressure on body image and whatnot, but like not eating is putting your body in a starvation mode. So even if you are trying to lose weight, you're not going to, because your body is trying to preserve a fuel source so that when there is no food, it can survive off of itself. And so I try and educate them. Like the other day I had a girl, she hadn't eaten. It was 4:45 in the afternoon, hadn't eaten anything except ingested some water. And she got hit in the head and was having some symptoms of concussion. But like when I walked in, she was ghost white. Her lips were like no more color. She almost looked like green. And I'm like, okay, well, what have you eaten today? Have you had any water? She started eating. I think she had like, the little snack packs where it's kind of like the little cracker sticks with the cheese.
Oh yeah.
She had that and like a beef jerky stick or whatever, the Slim Jim. She ate like half of a Slim Jim, and like we got her into the athletic training room, which thankfully it wasn't very far from where they were, but within like 5 minutes, she's feeling better. And
oh yeah,
I was like, you need to eat the rest of that. Keep eating. Yep. I made her keep eating, and she started feeling better. All of her symptoms went away within like 5 minutes of eating. And I just tried to explain. I was like, even if you're not hungry, like you need to get something in your system, because like I said, your body is burning calories, and we got to eat to live, And so she had to come back the next day she didn't have symptoms, but when I made her do some exertional stuff, some burpees, she started getting like dizzy again, and she had eaten. Well,
you made her do burpees right away. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. You're mean.
Well, I had her run. I had her run on the treadmill, and like, because for me, like burpees are the fastest way to get your heart rate going, on top of having your brain move around. I was going to say, so I only made her do like 5. It wasn't that many, but she got dizzy after like 3. So I was like, okay, well, you're done. You got to go to the doctor. But just always trying to like encourage them to eat, and encourage them that, like, the other day one of the girls was saying that she has like man arms. And I was like, no, you don't. You just have strong arms, and
I like it.
That's fine. Yeah, and that's changed since I've started lifting weights. But just trying to like encourage her, like, no, you just have strong arms. Like, who cares? Whatever. Granted, she did take a picture of like her bicep while she was flexing and like cut her face out of it. And if I hadn't known that was her arm, I would have thought it was a guy. But that's fine, like that just means you're strong and you're capable of doing whatever you need to do, like in your sport. It was just funny. But
that's more a cultural thing than her arm actually looking like a dude's arm.
Yeah.
Were you ever afraid of getting bulky when you started your Olympic weightlifting journey and started to eat
Not really. No.
Good. I'm glad, because it's a
I
common
mean,
thing
there
I
was
hear.
like there was some like looking at some of the CrossFitters and like Olympic lifters. There are some aspects of like their body ratios that I was like, well, if that happens, okay, but like I kind of I don't want to lose like this or the way this looks. But then at the same time, I was like, but I want to do well in what I'm doing, and but my whole journey started getting ready to not like I had to lose weight, but just getting toned and like looking stronger so that when I wear my wedding dress, like I look good. So that's how that started.
Yeah.
It was like #shredding for the wedding. And then it just got to a point where I was like, well, my coach was like, you're already shredded, so we might as well just, get better at what you're doing. And I was like, yeah, I like that idea. So that was kind of how that progressed. But I wasn't necessarily like afraid to be bulky.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're realizing now that'd be a lot of work.
Oh yeah, to be that like to look like a guy, I would basically have to just be in the gym like all day, every day, and like eating everything in sight.
Plus
that's
steroids.
Just too much energy.
Plus steroids. Lots of steroids.
It's also though it's less about like what I look like and more it's something that I've noticed since like working out. A lot of people, especially, this is going to sound bad, but like especially guys, like don't understand it. Like a strong woman is confusing to them, and it's
you're not wrong. It does confuse a lot of people, a lot of weak men.
Like confusing. Like why would you what? And I'm not trying to be stronger than a man. I'm not trying to be as strong as a man. Like I accept my body's limitations. Like if a guy and I do the same thing, like they're probably going to be stronger, and that's fine. If I'm training and if a guy is not training, then yeah, I might be stronger than them, but that's not my intention. But
yeah, because it's a spectrum.
It's just fun. Yeah, they just
like you said, it's fun
to get it. Like, why are you doing this? I'm not, because I like doing it, and for me, if I can, especially with weightlifting, you can have like an amazing weightlifting week, and then you come back like the next day and you can't even snatch like your 10% for some reason, like whatever it is, it's timing, I don't know, whatever. So that's happened to me. And if I can like work through that and hit that snatch, like that is such a huge thing for me. It's not even sometimes about numbers, it's like mentally.
Yeah.
And so if I can do that, then I know I can handle like something stressful at work. I can handle something stressful in my personal life. I can handle those things because I'm building my mentality as well. So like for me, that's more what weightlifting is about, and like being strong and capable, and not necessarily just like I want to be stronger than everybody or I want to be better than somebody else. It's not really about that for me. So that's been like the biggest thing that I've noticed. Like a lot of people don't understand it.
Oh no, for sure, I agree. Do you know who Steffi Cohen is?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was hoping so. I'm gonna play I think I can play the video through here. Hopefully it doesn't get me kicked out. But yeah, she just recently squatted 495 pounds. She weighs 123 pounds at the Arnold this past weekend. I think I can play the video through here.
Yeah.
Everyone will be able to see it. But let me turn that down a little bit. But yeah, she is I'm playing the video right now for everyone listening to the podcast. She is an absolute beast. But so when you said you touched on it a little bit, like girls, women can't be stronger than men or something like that. I always think of her, I'm like, she's pretty sure she's stronger than 99% of men, and probably closer to 100% if you talk pound for pound. So yeah, I always just you brought it back to that being about a spectrum. Like I see it all the time with the population I work with. There's men and women in the gym all day, and they separate it into tribes. Like, oh, God forbid a female athlete in the gym is stronger than me. That should never happen. I'm a guy. And it's like, well, yeah, but we're all people, and we all fit on this spectrum. And strength is just one of those metrics where maybe she has better genetics than you. Maybe she just trains her ass off more than you. She eats better than you. She comes in the gym, gets after. She's been training longer. All of those things play a part in this spectrum of strength. So it just frustrates me when, you know, people are, they come in and they limit themselves. Like a female athlete might say, well, I'll never be stronger than that person because I'm a woman. It's like, well, no, you just got to work your ass off and apply yourself and eat right, recover right. Yeah, there's genetic differences between men and women when it comes to, you know, bone structure, muscle density, where men versus where women, you know, carry more of their weight. But really, it's just, you know, it comes down to intensity of your mindset. So yeah, I love hearing that from you. You're like, you don't give a fuck about, you know, being stronger than X person. You do it for your own sake, for your own improvement. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, it helps too when I'm not having like a good lifting day, or I think it also helps because I train with another person at the same time, and he's just a lot stronger than me, but he's also not really like boastful about it, but and he's been doing it longer than me, but so I think that kind of helps. I don't know, it's not like I sit there and try and compete with him. Or like other people. So putting myself in a competition like is definitely, I'm just a really competitive person. And so I was like, I'm not going to be in a competition if I'm not going to be like somewhat competitive in it. But at the same time, like for me to just even be able to like go in and like put a total up is going to be, you know, a win for me. And it was also, I feel like I kind of, I didn't have like a push, like I had a push. I like weightlifting, but it was kind of like I was just going every morning and like just working out, and it wasn't like I was working towards something per se. It was like I was just there because I enjoyed doing it, and like I like, you know, I just liked being there and like doing that. But like when I had a bad snatch day, it was just like, oh, it's just a bad day. I'll be fine the next day or whatever. And like for me, like my concern is, okay, well, what if my bad snatch day is on my competition day? Or like, what if my bad jerk day is on my competition day? I need, you know, it was a way for me to start thinking like, no, like you need to learn how to like work through a bad lifting day. And sometimes you can't, but like that was kind of why I decided to do that, to like push myself a little bit more. But I'm thankful that I'm not as bad as I used to be when I was younger, where I was just really competitive. Especially if there was a guy there.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, like I'm gonna beat him. I'm gonna beat him and I'm gonna shove it in his face because yeah, feminism. But you know, now it's like now
awesome.
It's more just like I just need to be better for myself and like push for myself and yeah, just be strong mentally. So some maturity, I guess.
There you go. Let's talk more about the weightlifting. So from soccer athlete to endurance junkie, and now a hoister of the barbell. How did that happen? What's that transition look like?
So I didn't play soccer after high school because the school that I went to for undergrad was a 4-year program. And so 2 years of it, you were in the program and you had to do all of your hours. So you were doing like 20 hours a week from the very first week you started. So you weren't
Plus
allowed
all of
to
your
do
classes.
sports your junior, senior year.
Yep.
Yeah. So you couldn't do sports your junior or senior year. So I was like, well, I don't want to be on a team for like 2 years and then have to drop out. That would just be like really hard for me.
Yeah.
So I just decided to stop doing that. And then I started running just because, you know, it was like a good stress reliever. You get your runner's high, whatever. And then when my body kind of like didn't like it, I just stopped and kind of picked it up again. And then
what would you do between bouts of running and not running because it didn't feel good? Did you have?
Oh, nothing.
Oh. I love it.
I just wouldn't do anything, but I think my metabolism was still in the place where I could just eat whatever and like do whatever, and it didn't matter. But then it wasn't like a super long bout where I like stopped running altogether. I just stopped running like super long distance. So I would maybe, instead of doing 13.1, I would do maximum like 3 miles or something, just to kind of get like that stress relief. And like it was a time where I could like clear my head or whatever.
Yeah.
I also started training when I was in grad school. I started training with my hockey team in their like preseason conditioning.
Oh, nice.
So that was when I kind of like, I started squatting. They didn't do Olympic lifting. I did do some squatting and like bench press and just like overall just kind of like strengthening. And then they did like conditioning days. So I started doing like the conditioning bouts with them. Just because my first year, like hockey is one of those sports. It's kind of like wrestling. I could see it in some weightlifters as well, but it's like a culture kind of thing.
Oh, very much
so.
So
If you're like, if you're not a part of it,
Yeah.
then like you're not a part of it.
Yeah, get the fuck
And
out.
so when I started working with the hockey team, it was almost like, don't talk to Hannah. If you talk to Hannah, she's going to find something wrong with you and she's going to sit you. Like, she doesn't care. And like, that's one thing like that I try and tell kids now. My job is not to sit you. My job is to keep you healthy. And like the biggest part of athletic training is prevention of injury.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I might ask you about something, but like my goal is to not sit you. It's to, oh, well, how can we make it so that you don't have this issue anymore and you can keep playing?
Yeah, it's about identifying trends and like, you know,
right.
it's something that's been driving me kind of crazy because I see more and more of it. People call it, they're like prehab exercises. I'm like, well, you know, prehab stands for preoperative, right? Like it has nothing to do with actual prevention. Like there's no magical bullet or exercise that's gonna completely remove the possibility of injury. What I think we as athletic trainers, especially with a strength bias or a strength training background, is we can apply these principles, you know, from Olympic lifting, from weightlifting, from powerlifting to our sport, the patients we work with, the athletes we work with. And I think, you know, you're a prime example of that is becoming part of that culture, like them realizing like you're not this like wizard in the sterile athletic training room. You're down in the trenches with them. You're training, you're working hard. You're able to provide the physiologic, like the proprioception of a movement, the proper technique of a movement from your background in sports medicine and now as a strength athlete. Like you look at it and you're like, we have to move this way because not only is it the best way to move the most weight, but it has direct carryover into your sport. And while we can't say that this is going to completely prevent injury, we do know that it's going to increase your strength, increase your force production, put you in the correct biomechanical position, which, you know, we do that enough times. You don't have to think about it when you're playing your sport. It just happens and you kick ass.
Right.
You know, and we can do all that simply by just working out with them or them seeing us training hard and them being like, oh shit, this person gets it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I noticed that like, as soon as I started doing it, I noticed like a big difference in like their willingness to come to me about stuff. And it's like, well, you're probably just sore. I'm really sore. I'm there with you, you know, or like, you know, if there was something that was bothering them, and I'd be like, well, let's look at your form in the, like, while you're doing this movement.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I could like kind of dissect it. But I also, when I was there, I tried to not be that person. I tried to like be there and like be there to work out. So that they did see like, I'm not just sitting here looking for things, you know? And so, which I wasn't, because usually there wasn't something that was like an issue per se. But, so I guess I had a little bit of experience with like weightlifting, but not to, you know, any like large degree. But so I guess that's kind of what I did in between like running bouts. I started training with them. I forgot about that.
Nice.
And then this last time though, after training for, I think I did like 3 or 4 half marathons. And then it's like I couldn't even run like 2 miles, and my like IT band was just like mad and all the stuff. So I just like, I'm just gonna take some time off. Well, like some time turned into like, I don't even know how long, probably like a year.
Wow.
And yeah, that was when like, you know, I just kind of noticed my body changing, the way I felt. I was tired, like certain things were hard for me to do. at work. Like I was just weaker in general. And then I actually was working a CrossFit competition and just sitting there kind of watching. And I was like, I think I want to try this. But not having any background in Olympic style weightlifting, I was like, because, you know, one of the physical therapists that was there, and he was like, dude, half these girls are like way stronger than me. Holy crap. And when I said I wanted to try it, he was like, oh, well, you know, you should be careful or something. More so like you don't want to get hurt kind of thing. And that was like, well, duh, I'm not an idiot. So I just started like kind of researching gyms and whatnot. And I reached out to someone and was like, look, I don't have any background in this, and I'm not trying to be, you know, the weekend warrior type person where I just go in and start doing stuff. I don't even want to like touch weight. I just want to learn how to do this and like do it right so I don't injure myself, you know, typical athletic trainer. I want to prevent all the injuries before they happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started out with like, honest to God, a PVC pipe for like a month.
Yeah.
I wasn't even allowed to touch a barbell. And I just did positional work and, you know, some strengthening. I did some squatting and, you know, kettlebell work just to try and work on. My biggest thing was like shoulder mobility. Actually, it was more.
I was just thinking that.
Mobility.
Your resting posture is not optimal for anything overhead with a barbell.
Yeah, so working on like T-spine mobility and like hip mobility and more ankle mobility, but some hip.
From all the running.
Just really working on form. And so then I started doing some classes which were like really scaled versions of you know, CrossFit WODs. And at one point I just was kind of frustrated at one point because I'm not a very patient person. And this one girl had like joined the class. So it was just me at first, and then a guy joined the class, and I was like way more conditioned than him. Mm-hmm. So I could just kick his butt in pretty much like every workout. And I was kind of just coasting. I wasn't really like pushing myself, but we were also not doing like super heavy weightlifting. And then this woman joined, and she'd been doing CrossFit for I don't even know how many years, like forever. And she was just way stronger than me. And it made me so mad. She would beat me in everything. And it didn't matter. Like I could beat her in anything like cardio, but she would just kick my butt in like anything where it involved weight. And it was really frustrating. And at one point I just looked at my like strength and was like, I'm not getting as strong as I would like. And then trying to do like a CrossFit style workout, it's making me go through my movements a lot faster. Like it wasn't one of those things where I was solid enough in my form where it didn't matter how fast I went. Like I was just, and so I just like sat down for a second and was like, I just want to commit to just weightlifting and like really, really, really learn the lift and like get stronger in my lift. And then, you know, maybe one day I'll eventually like get back towards doing like CrossFit. But my other thing is like for CrossFit, you should be training for your WOD, not your WOD shouldn't be your training. Mm-hmm. That's my personal belief. Yep. I feel like a lot of times, and it's not everyone. And like some people who do CrossFit get really mad at me when I say stuff. I'm like, I'm not frowning upon CrossFit. That's not what I'm doing by any means. Like if you want to hate me, whatever. But like, I feel like a lot of times we're so ready to just get to that RX or even scaled. Some people scaled isn't scaled enough. I know for me it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so for me it was like I need to be training and like doing things that I'm not good at. I'm for the longest time I wouldn't drop under the bar to save my life. Like I just wouldn't. I don't know if it was because I was scared or whatever. I just wouldn't drop under it. And so like doing really, you know, no hook, no feet snatches, doing tall jerks, you know, stuff like that, where it was like, this is taking something I'm really not good at, I'm really uncomfortable with, but like working on it so that I can get better at like the full thing. I kind of feel like CrossFit's the same way. You should be doing strict handstand push-ups. You should be doing strict chest to bar or whatever pull-ups, you know, like it shouldn't just be about the gymnastics, like kipping and whatever, you know. You should be like training to do those things and
completely
doing all
agree.
of them, not
Completely
just what
agree.
you're good at. And that's where you look at prevention of injuries. And I know that's my athletic training background coming out, but like doing those things and like training for a WOD is going to prevent injuries. There's a lot of people right now that are starting to have surgeries on shoulders and like fusions and like back stuff, and it's like because you've been beating the crap out of your body for so long and your form is not great, or you can't even do this, and so you're overloading your shoulder, you know what I mean, like stuff like that, or they don't do any mobility. There's some people at the gym that I'm just like, stop what you're doing, please, like you just need to stretch, like all I gotta say. You know, like not saying I'm stronger than you, not saying that I can do what you're doing, because I can't, but I acknowledge that, and I'm not gonna like, I'm gonna honor my limitations. And so, but I think that a lot of times what we see on Instagram or on the games or whatever, even like for weightlifting, same thing, you know, what you see at AO3, like, or any AO
It's
series.
the American Open, if anyone's confused what she's talking about.
Oh yeah, sorry. You know, you look at some of these elite weightlifters and it's like, this is what they do. You know, they're training for this, and they're taking things that they suck at and they're doing them over and over and over again, so that they get better at doing what they need to do. And they do recovery stuff. They do, you know, they're doing massage, they're doing cryotherapy, they're doing cupping, they're doing pretty much anything, they're going to try it.
Yeah.
And, you know, ROMWOD, all this stuff that it's like, this is what you need to be an elite athlete if you want to do that. But, you know, that's one thing that I think frustrates me sometimes, I guess, because I'm just one that I'm not going to sacrifice my body just for a number. But that was, anyway, that's essentially how I got started in weightlifting.
Love it.
And yeah.
Cool. A lot of information there for people. I want to bring it all together, tie it together with athletic training. So for yourself, like ATs are healthcare. What exactly does that mean to you?
I think that, so I've worked at a lot of different settings now. I sometimes cover for an industrial setting at a free-to-lay plant. So not only are you doing the typical things that you see athletic trainers doing, like, you know, stretching, massage, sometimes taping, first aid, you have to go out onto the plant floor and watch them while they're doing certain things. You have to watch them while they're working and give them pointers on, okay, when you lift something, you need to like not use your back. You got to like squat down and like pick it up all at once. Or when you're using an air blower to clean this off, you know, you should be taking micro breaks and you should be switching hands. Things like that, which granted, when they invented actually pretty much any plant, I'm sure they had no regard for humans who are going to have to clean this or repair it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, it was one of those things where kind of like you're talking about, like mentality wise with athletes, you know, show them that, you know, you're human and you're whatever, you know, giving them the grace. Like, I understand that the only way to get to this, you have to lay on your back and like reach upside down and all this stuff. But, you know, just try to do this because you're preventing those injuries, those overuse injuries like tendonitis and carpal tunnel and stuff like that. But seeing so many different settings, even just from like D3 high school to D1 to professional to industrial, seeing all those things. I got to tour behind the scenes with the athletic trainer for one of the Cirque du Soleil shows, and just seeing like we do a lot of stuff working through a physical therapy clinic. One of the physical therapists, he just constantly was like, I'm just constantly being surprised by you. Like, you really impress me every single time I talk with you because you really know what you're talking about. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you. But, you know, it's just one of those things, like we are healthcare. We're part of the healthcare environment. You know, maybe we specialize in something. There are a lot of things physical therapists do that I don't do. There are a lot of things that nurses do that I don't do. But there's a lot of things that I do that they don't. And to me, healthcare is not, healthcare should be defined by your healthcare or sports medicine team. That was one thing that I learned when I was in college. Like, that's one thing I think they teach all athletic training students is it's a collaboration. Like sports medicine is kind of an umbrella term. We are all, kind of a key or a tool in the toolkit of sports medicine. You should be collaborating with other healthcare professionals to provide the best care for your athlete or your worker or your artist or whatever, whatever setting you're in, whether it be military or industrial or any of that stuff. You should be collaborating with doctors, nurses, physical therapists, chiropractors, massage therapists, whomever you need to collaborate with, because healthcare shouldn't be about, well, I do this and you do this. Healthcare should be about, we are here to help and serve this individual or these individuals so that they can be productive and healthy and stay healthy and save costs. So athletic training, whatever setting you're in, I mean, me just going out and somebody says they're sore and I say, hey, why don't you foam roll and stretch like this? They start doing that. That's a strain. That's a tendonitis, something that I just prevented, and they're able to keep practicing and playing without having to lose time from their sport. Things like that. Looking at same thing with overuse injuries that you see in the industrial setting. Sorry, my ice machine just kicked on. But yeah, that's when people say athletic trainers are healthcare, we're more than just like basic first aid and CPR. We do, clinical evaluations and rehab. And, we learned how to do an entire ACL pre and post-op rehabilitation from start to finish. We learned how to do, one of my projects when I was in college was taking an Achilles tear from the time that it happened all the way to return to play. The only thing we actually had to research the different ways that you would repair it if somebody did get it repaired. We had to observe surgeries so that you see what goes into it. I mean, that stuff's like carpentry. When people ask why you're so sore after a total knee reconstruction, it's because they treat you like you're a building and they're sawing and like hammering.
Yeah.
So it's just those things that, athletic trainers are healthcare because we work alongside other allied healthcare professions to keep our athletes or our people or whomever they are, to keep them healthy and active to the best that we can, and so that they're, not losing time from what they need to do.
Love it. Got me fired up, Hannah. Lastly, how do you tie in your own kind of your own story, your own journey with athletics, strength training, eating healthier, just like general health and wellness? How do you tie that into what you're doing as an athletic trainer and what you hope to do?
Oh boy. One thing that I've liked about it is it's really opened my eyes, I guess, to like mobility and I guess like adaptation.
Ooh, I love
like
it.
when you go into athletic training, actually, I think most healthcare professions, when you look at a squat, they teach you one way to squat. They say, this is how you squat. You don't squat like this. You're going to have this, or you're going to have this.
I'm dealing with that right now with interns. They come into with zero practical experience from the health and wellness promotion major, and they're like, well, this is what it said in the book, and this is what my professor said, and blah, 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 blah. You hear this and that. And I'm like, have any of those people ever worked with other people, like the general population, athletes? You need to be context specific. And then, they have like this come to Jesus afraid moment, because they're like, holy shit, it's not just, there's not just one way to squat. You've got to know your athlete, their biomechanics, their past experiences, their injuries. What are they trying to accomplish with the squat? I'm right there with you.
And like mobility, I mean, that's a huge thing, like working on my ankle mobility and then just slightly widening my stance a little bit. And it's like, holy crap, I can sit upright when I'm squatting all the way down, just one of those things. Or like snatching and having no T-spine mobility. It's like, well, good luck putting that over your head. It's just like, it's totally changed. And like, I've always kind of, I've always kind of believed that, well, I know I've always believed that you need to treat every individual as an individual and not, granted, okay, for every ankle sprain, usually these are the things I do, but I also take into consideration what sport they're doing, what movements they're already having issues with, or where their mobility is. But like now more than ever, it's just, I don't know, like just looking at them and like really looking at them and like their situation and trying to like fix it and not, oh, well, this is what I always do for an ankle sprain. You always do this rehab. It's like, well, this is a different sport. This is what they're having issues with. Their pain is in this spot, not this spot. Just really trying. And it also helps me, like, if something's not working, I now it's like, oh, I can figure out what I need, maybe we need to do this, or we need to work on mobility a little bit more because they just can't get into that position or something like that. And then, also leading by example. I'm not just trying to like tell all these kids that they have to eat healthy, but like I'm eating healthy and, it's just having food and like prepping food so that I can be functional for one. The other day we had dinner, with, a bunch of people, and I couldn't have any of the pasta sauce because it was too much fat. I mean, pasta sauce is like straight fat for Alfredo sauce. So I was like, I can't have any of that. And everyone's like, what the heck? Like, you're eating that without the sauce? Like, isn't that gross? I was like, not really. I mean, it's not disgusting.
Throw
it would
some
be
pesto
better
on there
sauce,
and boom.
I was like, I just can't have the Alfredo sauce. So I'm just going to eat this and it's fine. And people are like arguing with me. And at the beginning, my fiance is not really an athletic person, which is fine. I don't care. But, at first he just doesn't have that knowledge. He doesn't have that background. So it's kind of like, well, like, just make sure you're still eating, or whatever. When I said I had to lose 10 pounds, he's like, just make sure like you're still healthy. I was like, I know.
You're like, you're adorable.
But even him now, he will come and like, not defend me, but like defend me, and just be like, no, she actually eats a lot. Like, you should see what she eats at home. Like, she's eating, because people will make that comment all the time. Like, well, you're not eating anything. And I'm like, look at my plate is completely full of food. I'm just not eating the same thing you're eating. Yeah. So, like educating other people and like trying to just encourage them to be a little bit more open-minded, with that, and like aware, like, not aware all the time, but like with athletes, just aware of what they're eating and how they're eating. And
love it. Well, how about we end on what do you have to say to anyone or any female athletes or women in particular who want to A, get into athletic training, or B, take up a strength sport?
I would say for athletic training, just make sure that it's something that you do have a passion about. I've seen it with quite a few professions, like teaching is one, nursing, or like being a doctor, athletic training. No, not athletic training. I lied. But people will do it because they're like, oh, they're always going to need teachers, so my job will be secure, or, oh, like they make a lot of money.
Yep.
And they get into the profession and they're like, holy crap, this is really hard. Like, I'm tired. And they get burnt out. And athletic training, I don't think that, not one you get into for money. I'll tell you that. So that's why it's like, just make sure that it's something that you are passionate about, because it does get really tiring. And also as a female in athletic training, sometimes you have to just roll with the punches a little bit. And it sucks that sometimes we have to prove ourselves in certain situations to kind of be regarded as like, oh, she knows what she's doing. But, just keep your head up, and like, it's all going to pay off in the end. And as long as you're doing good for your athletes and being an advocate for them, like, that's all that anyone should be asking of you. So, keep your head up and just stay true to like yourself and like your why of why you're being an athletic trainer. And for like anyone that's interested in like weightlifting or CrossFit or whatever you're interested in, I do think, again, like, make sure it's something that you're passionate about. Whether it's just being healthy, like, find what works for you. And like really find what works for you. I think that's something like, oh, well, I'm paleo, or I'm vegan, or I'm this, or, you know, whatever it is. You know, if it works for someone, that's great, but everybody's body is different, especially like a male and a female body. You're going to react to different things. Like your physiology is going to react to things differently. So just, you know, if something's not working, don't be discouraged, and don't be afraid to like look at other things. And, you know, don't be afraid of being bulky, because being strong is not a bad thing. And, you know, if you're really worried about being bulky, then you're probably like going above and beyond of what anyone else is really doing if you're like getting to that point. And, but like embrace your strength, and just do what makes you happy and feels good. Yeah.
I love it. Hannah, that's a great message. And where are you active on the social medias? Do you want people to follow you?
Not really.
All right, fair enough. So just
I try to keep my social media like pretty low key.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't want all the crazy people DMing me and being weird. So.
I can respect that. I'm gonna shut the recording down. But thanks for coming on. But stay on the phone so I can talk to you afterwards.
All right.
All right. You can say goodbye to everyone.
Bye, guys.